Good evening. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome to Buddha Dharma TV. I am Nidasha Korituaku from Toronto, Canada. We begin our program paying highest veneration to the Supreme Buddha.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato
Next, we have extraordinary life story that will captivate you. It is inspiring journey of a world-renowned Buddhist nun from Buddhist Society of Western Australia. Her remarkable transformation from a devout Catholic upbringing to embracing the path of Buddhist monasticism is profoundly eye-opening and tale of anyone who's seeking spiritual liberation. Many are already familiar with her story. Due to popular demand from dedicated followers, we are honored to share her story again. Title, Why I Became a Nun. Here is Venerable Munasari to share her fascinating and deeply personal account on her path to nunhood.
At the time, you have no idea, right, that, I'm going to grow up to become a nun. But I think that now that I look back, I'm like, I don't think it's any coincidence that I was born in a house where, you could walk 5 minutes and be with nuns. They were Catholic nuns, but they were nuns, and I had very fond memories of them. And when I was growing up, we would go and visit Thailand once or twice a year. And my mother would bring us to the monastery maybe once or twice a year. So for me, it was very special to go to the monastery. It wasn't like if I had grown up in Thailand and was dragged, out of bed to offer dana early in the morning every day. I might be a little more mixed in my opinions. But for me, it was like, oh, wow, going to the monastery is a special thing. And I remember seeing, actually, a nun when I was, 7 or 8. I can't really quite remember what age I was. At the time in Thailand, they didn't have bhikkhunis, so she was a manchi, so a white-robed, 8-precept nun, sort of sitting there quietly teaching. And I remember thinking, oh, that seems like a good life. So I think these things, when I look back, they're no coincidence. But when you're just a kid going to school, what do you know about, people ask you what you want to be when you grow up. People say, oh, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a doctor, I want to be, no one says I want to be a nun. So there's not quite that in your head. But nonetheless, I think a natural affinity for the Dhamma developed as I grew up. So even when I went to school in the Philippines until high school, and then after that I went to do my undergraduate degree in America. And so I went to Harvard, which is supposed to be a good university. But I also felt quite unhappy, actually, when I was a student there. It was very stressful because really you're always looking for your worth from the outside. So there's very much an emphasis on having achievements that you can show. Things like I attained these grades, I got this kind of scholarship, I got this job at this prestigious company, I applied to this graduate school and I got in. It was very much always talk about what you accomplished. That was worldly. And I think that deep down, I actually didn't really share those values, but when you're living surrounded by that kind of mentality, you can't help but just absorb it. And so you think that you always have to prove yourself according to what it is other people value. And I think deep down I probably felt quite conflicted about this, and so yeah, I was quite unhappy. I remember my second year, I was actually seriously depressed. And at that point, rather than go out and just get drunk or whatever, luckily I had some grounding in the Dhamma. And so my mother's advice, was go to the monastery, go speak to a monk. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. That sounds like a good idea. So I remember I got this book from this friendly monk, and it's Thai temple in LA. I had to go all the way across the country and to go to a Buddhist monastery. But there I got this book that was translated from a Thai very famous Thai monk named Buddhadasa Bhikkhu. And it was sort of an introduction to Buddhism. And I remember reading that, sort of looking for answers, looking for why am I so unhappy, and how do I stop being so unhappy? And there was a line that really resonated with me in there, which is that of all the things the Buddha taught, he taught about suffering and the end of suffering. I mean, that's really it. And to me, I thought, yeah, well, that's all that matters. When you're actually really suffering, you don't really care about all those other things that are supposedly called success, all those other things that are supposedly supposed to give you happiness, because I found it didn't. You accomplish one thing, then you're just expected to accomplish another thing. You scale one mountain, then you have to look at the next, and it's endless. But here was the promise of an end of suffering, and that was very interesting. I mean, to me, I felt, okay, well, this is it. This is the real meaning of life, and this is really what's worth pursuing in one's life. And I think at that time, even though I was very, quite young, probably 19, I really found my compass in life. I found the direction and the highest purpose and goal of my life, what it would be, and that was such a relief, because when you're young, you're just lost, right? You don't really know what you want to do, what you want to become, that kind of thing. But at least I knew, at some level, this was the most important thing I had to do in my life. So whether I did it exactly then or not was another story. Because when you're young, you don't really have any role models, especially spiritual role models for women. Maybe if I was a man in Thailand or something and I came to this conclusion, I'd be like, oh, right, off to the monastery I go, and I shall ordain as a bhikkhu, kind of thing. But when you're a woman, you're just kind of like, well, okay, so I know the Dhamma is important, but how does that actualize in my life? I didn't really know. So I just did the normal thing, and I, finished school, got a job, and I remember thinking that it seemed that if I wanted to devote myself to the Dhamma, it would be like very serious. I had to be serious about it. And I was like, I'm young, I just want to have fun first. So my mentality was, well, let me have fun, for a while, and and later on I'll be, devoted to the Dhamma. So when I was in my 20s, I chose to go and work in New York City, because if you want a fun life, right? You go to New York City. And so I had my time of fun in my early 20s, just, living a quite carefree life. And basically, if you want to use Buddhist vocabulary, just, living the world of the 5 sense pleasures. So looking for your fun from the, going to movies, going to shows, going to restaurants, eating food, this, that, having fun with friends. Basically 5 sense pleasures. And I had that for a while, and really after the second year I was already a bit bored of it. I mean, it's fun for a while, and then it's just that. Then you get bored, and then what? And so again, I began to look again to the Dhamma, because I felt that would provide something more satisfying. And so I started to practice meditation more seriously, and I started to devote time to doing spiritual things and not just, worldly pursuits. But really what turned me more seriously towards the thought of ordaining or that kind of thing was when I was 25, and I came back to Thailand, and my mother became very ill in a way that was very sudden. And also it was a very rare illness that was said to be terminal, but you also didn't know when. So originally she was given 6 months, and we were thinking, oh my goodness, suddenly you start preparing for like death, right in your face. But it was very unpredictable, and she actually lived on another 5 years, but constantly with our thought of, well, we don't know when it's going to happen. So for me, that really brought home the point that life is really uncertain. And this plan of my having fun first and then devoting myself to the Dhamma later became quite, it seemed, well, you know, I've had enough fun. How much later am I going to have? You know, my mother's not that old, so I mean, when's my time going to be up? So that made me much more focused. And so then I began to practice the Dhamma more seriously. And I started to think about ordaining because I thought, well, if this is the most important thing to do in life, you know, why not be professional? You know, why not be full-time? Because that would really be the easiest way to learn something, right? And I mean, if you want to be a student, you know, it's easier to be a full-time student and not like part-time and, you know, holding on a job at the same time kind of thing. Similarly, if you really want to, you know, figure out stuff in terms of the Dhamma, learn it, study it, practice it wholeheartedly, I thought, well, heck, full-time. So then I thought, you know, being a monastic would be really a good option, or maybe the most conducive way to do that. But again, as a woman, you think, but what are the monastic options for a woman? You know, so it was more confusing and hazy. I didn't really have a clear idea of where I could go or what would be a suitable option. So it was more just an idea for a long time, maybe 5 years. Also I felt I couldn't go as long as my mother was still alive. You know, I'd have to see that through first. But also because I was still not sure myself whether I was more in love with the idea of being a monastic than really actually knowing what it entailed. So I was worried that I would have just romanticized notions of what being a nun was, or, you know, what the nun's life was, and maybe it was just a form of escape. So I had my 5 years of grappling with it and really looking into the Dhamma more, so studying it and practicing it. I did a master's degree, partly just to have time to read more about Buddhism and to practice and write a thesis about it, to see whether or not I love the Dhamma enough to devote my whole life to it, you know. And then the more I studied, the more I practiced, the more I wanted to devote more time to it. The more it seemed like the most important thing to do. And so it was quite natural, my progression to becoming monastic. You know, it was just getting myself, you know, walking from the shallow end and just, you know, progressing till you get wetter and wetter. And so after I finished my master's degree, I wanted to just explore monastic life more. And one turning point was coming here, actually. So back in 2008, I spent a few weeks at Bodhinyana, and I spent, I think, a month and a half at Dhammasara, because I'd never lived in a nun's community. I'd visited monasteries in Thailand before, but they were monks' monasteries. So when you go as a laywoman, it's still not a clear idea of what it would be like to be one of them, because you're not one of them, you know? But when I came here, I had more of a sense of what it would be like to be one of them. Because when you're a laywoman staying here, you're a bit more involved, you have a bit more contact with the monastics. And I remember thinking, I'm so relieved that I actually think I would like it. You know, I had this idea of, oh, I want to be a nun. And what if you went to a nunnery and you're like, oh God, I hate it. So I was actually so relieved after that experience. So no, I think I actually really like it. I really, you know, really took to monastic life. I really felt it. You know, it's like, you know, a duck going back into water kind of thing. You know, you just take to it. And so that helped me clarify that actually this kind of lifestyle is not escapism. You know, I thought, oh, maybe I'm just really tired of the humdrum of daily life, you know, paying the bills, going to work, that kind of thing. But then I came to the monastery and they had these eternal discussions about their phone bills and, you know, the water pump and, you know, all this kind of stuff. It's like, oh, yeah, no, real life exists in the monastery too. And, you know, I'm not running away from anything. In fact, maybe there's more here because there's, you know, in your little house, you have just your stuff, but this is like much more responsibility. So I thought, well, great, I'm not running away, and I'm running to something I actually think would be enjoyable and helpful in my practice. And so then I decided, okay, I want to be a nun. And that basically, I think for me, being able to be in a suitable environment, a conducive environment to help one to grow in the Dhamma is very important. And I think monastic life provides that. It provides that training, and it provides the environment, and it provides a lifestyle that's simple and a lifestyle that is centered on virtuous conduct. And so it's something that I found very difficult when I was a layperson trying to practice. I felt I was always pulled in different directions. On the one hand, you go and you listen to a Dhamma talk, and then immediately you come out and you're like in the middle of busy Bangkok with all these advertising, blaring in your face. And you're like, oh wait, okay, no desires, right? And so it's very conflicted. Or maybe the people around you, your friends, your family, not everybody is going to be so interested in Dhamma. So it can be a bit, you can't quite communicate, or you can't find people who are also doing the same thing. But in the monastery, we're going for the same thing, and it's a very helpful and supportive to have that community feeling. Well, I think that, a good way to think of the Buddhist path is the three modules of conduct, so virtuous conduct, and then the second is the training of the mind, and the third is to develop wisdom, to understand the way things really are. So if we can begin to practice elements of these three aspects of the path, so by leading a life that doesn't cause harm to oneself or others, not virtuous in this goody-goody two-shoes kind of way, but virtuous in that sense of being harmless, really recognizing when our actions cause harm. And what's interesting is harm not just to others, but to ourselves as well. So if we are just guided by this very basic principle, whether you can memorize the 5 precepts or not, whether you can keep them perfectly or not, if we're always, our intention is always inclined towards refraining from harming, I think that in itself will bring you such an improvement in your quality of life. Now, without having to be a so-called religious person or a Buddhist, even that, just being constantly mindful of what is harmful. And that actually requires the other 2 aspects, because we can't know what's harmful or not if our mind has no clarity. So we need to develop a level of mindfulness, which is the buzzword now, mindfulness. But what that really means is really being there in the present, being here in the present, and knowing what's happening. Because we can't know what's appropriate to do unless we're actually here, And so being able to keep our harmless conduct, we need to have some level of mental training where we can be here in the now, so we can know what's appropriate to do in the now. So meditation is something that is now introduced even to school children, because it's recognized what a benefit it brings to one's life. When our mind is all over the place, we're completely, at the beck and call of our anger, our fear, our worries, all sorts of distressing emotions that if we've never trained our mind, there's no way we can actually be free of these things. But if we start to train our mind, a little bit, eventually we'll build up more clarity and more presence. So that's something that is relevant to anybody. And then finally, the wisdom to know things as they really are. This is almost like a Buddhist cliche, which can sound so obscure. It's like, know what? And how is it really? But really, I mean, if you just break it down to something so simple as if you're having a conflict with someone, okay, someone in your life, in your family, in your workplace, whatever, has just had an angry outburst and called you bad names or that kind of thing. So how much wisdom we have will depend, how much wisdom we have will determine how deeply we see into the situation. If we just see that, oh, this person is so bad, this person is so wrong, they've just yelled my head off, then we're only seeing things like at a certain surface level. But if we look deeper into how that might have been caused, what suffering that person might be feeling that has led to this, what kind of conditions has made this person have to act in this way, we start to see things more deeply and more according to reality. So when we can see things more according to reality, we find we can accept it more, right? So if we just think, oh, this person just totally out of line, then we can't accept it. But if we see that, oh, this person, they've always had a temper. They have a problem with their temper, or they have a lot of suffering right now. They're very stressed out with whatever problems they have in their life. We can see more what are the causes and conditions behind things, so we find it more easy to let go. And so this is something that you can see in your own life, how when we see things as they really are, it causes us to be able to release our suffering, lighten things up a little. And so that, I think, is how Buddhism can serve the community, or any human, really. It's because it allows us to touch into a deeper source of happiness.
Let's take a moment to enjoy a beautiful song titled Flower of Mankind. This is deeply inspiring and spiritual elevating hymn composed by O. Tekben. We hope you find peace and joy in the meaningful melody. Please enjoy.
Rohi rippled its water, tinged with the moonlit tide, mounted as high to Meru, gazed on with wondering pride, in the starry orbit, stopped for a while in pain. Gods in the shaken heaven, down to the earth they rain. Birds in the flaming leaves in your beds of gold, fish on the water's surface make themselves there below, there below.
Many people fail to recognize how Buddhist philosophy applies to everyday life or offer practical solutions. They often assume Buddhism is solely focused on achieving nirvana, which is a common misunderstanding. Now we have honor of hearing Venerable Dr. Bhante Punaji, distinguished master of Buddhist philosophy, as he delivers his insightful talk, Buddhism as Religion. We had him on our programs yesterday. Here is Venerable Dr. Bhante Punaji to deliver the second part of extended discussion.
And God cannot be blamed because He is perfect. How can a perfect person make an imperfect world? That was the problem. So instead of trying to maintain that that perfect person was the creator of the world, the humanistic definition says that this perfect person is not the creator of the world. And that perfect person is only a human concept. And that concept is an ideal. Ideal to be realized by the human being. And that ideal is realized through the practice of religion. And when you have realized the ideal, you have united with God. All religions talk about union with God. So the only way to unite with God is to realize that perfection. And that is what Buddhism is talking about. A person who realized that perfection is the Buddha. So a human being who becomes a Buddha means the human being has realized the ideal of perfection. That is, good Buddha has become God. That is why the Buddha used that word, Brahma Bhuto. Brahma is the word for God, and Bhuto means become. God become. Brahma Bhuto. That word was used by the Buddha not only to refer to himself, it was used even to refer to the Arahants, the disciples of the Buddha who reached perfection. They are also Brahma Bhuto. That means they have become God. So this means that the Buddha didn't throw away this concept of God. He only redefined the concept of God. He explained God in a different way. So it is incorrect to say that Buddhism is atheistic. So instead of saying that, Buddhism could be called anthropotheism. Anthropo means human. Theism means that the human being becomes God. And that is not the creator of the world, but in fact, that is the destroyer of the world. You know, in Hinduism, there are three kinds of gods there: Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Brahma is supposed to be the creator of the world, and Vishnu is the preserver of the world. He preserves the world so the people can worship and pray to Vishnu whenever they have problems. And Shiva is the destroyer of the world. That is very important to understand. You know, if you have seen these statues of Shiva, there are two statues. One is Shiva in meditation. The other, Shiva in a dance. The Shiva is holding the hands like this and with the leg, one leg up. You may have seen that and around there is some kind of circle, which is a circle, a flaming circle. That means flames going in the form of a circle around Shiva. And his leg is resting on an animal. Now that whole picture symbolizes what Shiva is. Shiva is able to be dancing like that, and Shiva is also able to be meditating. This is really what the Buddha achieved. And he is supposed to be the destroyer of the world. What does that mean? The world is suffering. And that is the meaning of that chain, that is flame. The flame around Shiva when Shiva is dancing. Now, to understand this properly, if you have been practicing meditation, say you are regularly practicing meditation. So when you are practicing meditation, you are sitting in some place and then you are very calm and tranquil in mind, relaxed in body, and you are happy and enjoying the peace of tranquility and purity of mind. That is in your meditation. Now, after meditating for some time, you get up and begin to walk around, do your normal duties in life. And then again, following day again, you come and sit and you get into meditation. That meditation part for you becomes something like taking a vacation. Otherwise you have a lot of duties to perform and you are performing these duties. And you are taking a vacation from time to time, resting your mind, and you are calming your mind. But if you keep on practicing, a time comes that, of course, some of you may have not experienced that, some of you may have experienced that, and that is you begin to feel, well, meditation is my normal home and doing my other duties is going out. So the home is the meditation part, and going out and doing your other work is... Now even the Buddha has this kind of way of seeing it, or even the Arahants. What does that mean? How the Buddha also every day gets into a very calm, tranquil state of the mind, but then after that he has to go around collecting food, pindapata, and he has to go and talk to the disciples and teach them the Dhamma. And so he also has certain duties to perform. But again, when he comes and when he is alone, he gets into meditation and he is quiet and resting. Now that is the two statues of Shiva. Shiva in meditation and Shiva in the dance. So Shiva in meditation and Shiva in the dance. Now, I said Shiva is the destroyer of the world. Now what does that mean? The world that we are talking about is all produced by our perception. So when we are going on Pindapata or when we are talking to people, we are in the world along with all the other people. So this is what I call that paradigm shift. You see, one paradigm is being in the world. The other paradigm is to come out of the world and you are in the tranquil state where there is no world for you during that period. You are out of the world. This is why that samadhi I call ecstasy. What is ecstasy? Ek means out. Stasi means standing. Standing out. That is standing out of the world. So when you are in meditation, you are standing out of the world. When you get into the meditation, you are in the world. So you are in the world and out of the world. In and out. So till you die, even the Buddha and the Arahants, they are sometimes in the world, sometimes out of the world. But you have completely given up the world, although you are in the world sometimes. But you are in the world means you are behaving like an actor. You know what an actor is doing? Say, the actor is acting out a story like, say, Romeo and Juliet. Now one man is acting like Romeo, the other person is acting like Juliet. They are in love. So, in the acting, they behave as if they are in love. But they are not in love in reality. But they are acting like they are in love. So in a similar way, when the Buddha gets into the world, he is acting like a person who is living in the world. But he is being in the world, but not of the world. Being in the world, but not of the world. As like the actor. Actor is in that story acting like the real person, but he is not in that real world that he is acting. You see, this is what is expressed in that Shiva story. Shiva in meditation, Shiva in dance. So in the same way, we can be living in both ways. So this is something very important to understand. Maybe I went out of point, huh? But it's an important thing to understand. And we come to the anthropological perspective. Now there is a subject today, it's a scientific study of anthropology. Anthropology means, anthropos means the human being. That is the Latin word. Anthropos means the human being. And anthropology means the study of the human being. Anthropology. So we don't say anthropology, we say anthropology. That is the proper pronunciation of that. anthropology. Like psychology is pronounced as psychology. In the same way, anthropology is pronounced as anthropology. That is the British way of pronouncing. So the important thing is that these anthropologists look at religion in a way which is very humanistic. So that is why religion has not come down from heaven to fill the need of a creator. It has risen on earth to satisfy a human need. So that means we are talking about religion not from a theistic point of view, but from a humanistic point of view. Science is humanistic, not theistic. Since the dawn of humanity, man has faced the dilemma of the insecurities of life, which is a problem: birth, aging, sickness, and death. So although we are struggling to exist, the world around us is preventing us from existing. This is the problem. You see, if you look at there is a channel on TV that shows animals all the time, and you'll see these tigers and lions chasing after cattle or some other animals, and they are all the time, because for the tiger, the animals are the food. But what does the animal think? Now, these days, we see on TV these Muslims killing the cattle. So maybe for the Muslims there is just the food, but for the cattle, they are suffering. They don't like to die. You don't like anyone coming and cutting your neck off. You see? So that is life. One animal is living on the other animal. Even those who are called vegetarians are living on the plants, no? Plants don't want to die, but we are living on plants. So that is how the world has been. If God created the world, is that the way God created the world? One animal eating other animals. Or even those who are vegetarians eating the plants. Plants are also living. You see, in other words, we cannot escape that. Either we should continue to live, or we and that means we are destroying other plants and animals, or we'll have to just starve and die. So this is a big problem. And these animals are not doing these things consciously. It is unconscious. Without their knowledge, that is their food. I have seen these, the geckos. You know what a gecko is, huh? Sometimes they run on the wall and suddenly they catch a fly or something that is on the wall and they eat. So that is how they live. Without catching the flies and eating, there is no other way they can live. So if they try to become vegetarians, or even vegetarians are doing the same thing. So we cannot avoid this. So this is why we have to mainly change our thinking. And so it is by understanding this problem of life that we can at least change our thinking, and when we are eating, at least we try to eat vegetables, or maybe conscious, instead of eating conscious beings. Vegetables are unconscious, and even animals, the lower kind of animal is unconscious. Consciousness is mainly properly established only in the human being. So this is why killing a human being is a greater offense than killing an unconscious animal. It depends on, but still we cannot avoid these things. This is why the Buddha didn't lay down a rule even for the monks to refrain from meat eating. Of course, they have to refrain from killing. And killing and eating flesh are two different things. If when they go on Pindapata, if someone offers some meat, that is just accepted as just some meat that is being cooked, and not thinking that this is, I am killing an animal. So everything is really depending on the thought, the motive. What makes you eat that flesh? As you eat the flesh, if you think, oh, it's very good that they kill this animal and it's good for me to eat, and if you think like that, then you are thinking some bad thoughts. But if you think, here there is this food, these people kill the animals and they have offered me, but I just take the food, that's all. So there is no other way of escape, because if we begin to think of how many animals are destroyed by the food we eat, even vegetables are grown with destroying other animals as you grow the vegetable. So you can't grow vegetables without destroying animals. And there are so many animals. And what about all the bacteria and all these things inside your stomach also, inside your body? Even to take medicine means, if you take antibiotics, again you are destroying these various kinds of life. So the only way is to change our thinking. That's the main thing. But at the same time, not to be consciously going and destroying life. This is the main problem here. We are living at the expense of others. That is how people live. Otherwise we'll have to just starve and die. So while living with difficulty, we should try to practice the Dhamma. Okay. So the primitive people, of course, face the insecurity of life. Now, We'll be talking more about the origin of religion and all that later. So, religion is really, as we said, is an effort to unite with God in some way, and God being simply the concept of perfection. So, according to the theistic religions, they think religion is the obedience to God. So, God comes down to the earth and tries to get the people to obey God. But the humanistic way of thinking is just the opposite of that, where the human being is trying to unite with God, and God being the concept of perfection, not another person there. It is simply the concept of perfection. So we go into the anthropological challenge. So the anthropology is really challenging the theistic religions in a way, because anthropology is humanistic. So this humanistic thinking is challenging the theistic religion. Now this is why I spoke about that period in the West called the Age of Enlightenment. Somewhere in the 1916, 1917, that age was the age when science evolved. Science began to come up. And then during that period, even before that, the religions were trying to attack science. They even killed the scientists. But gradually the scientists somehow won. And during that age of enlightenment, there were revolutions. And people even killed, they destroyed churches, killed the priests, and some even killed the kings and queens because they were trying to defend religion. So things like that happen. But somehow, still, there are people who are very much into this theistic way of thinking, even in United States. And that's why they wanted to get the schools not to teach science, or sometimes at least to stop teaching evolution. Or when that failed, they also tried to say, while teaching evolution, you should also teach creation. But creation is not acceptable to science. So they refuse to do that. So they are still going on, some people, trying to persuade the president to stop scientific teaching. So anyway, it cannot be done really. So somehow gradually the new generation will gradually begin to turn towards science more. So anyway, this is the kind of challenge that we have. So now we get on to this, is Buddhism That also we just discussed. Is Buddhism theistic or atheistic? That Buddhism is neither theistic nor atheistic. And Buddhism is humanistic. And so the God of the Buddhist is what is called an anthropomorphic God. Anthropomorphic means the body is the body of a human being, but the mind is the mind of God. That is what the Buddha is. This is why during the time of the Buddha, there was a person, a Brahmin, who observed, he was following the Buddha while he was walking. The Buddha was walking on the road, and this Brahmin was walking behind. And he noticed the footprints of the Buddha. And there was something different in the footprints of the Buddha. The Buddha's footprints were not like the footprints of a normal human being. There was a difference. And he thought, this can't be a human being. His footprints don't look like a human footprints. So when he began to think like that, the Buddha was able to read his mind. And he saw that he was thinking like this. So what the Buddha did was, he walked out of the road and sat under a tree. So that this man, he knew that this man will come and talk to him. So the man came, sat before the Buddha and said, "Are you a Deva?" Deva means some heavenly being, you see. Are you some heavenly being? He said, "No, I am not a Deva." Then are you some kind of devil or something like that? He said, "No, I am not a devil." Then are you some kind of spirit? He said, "No, I am not any spirit." Then are you a human being? He said, "No, I am not a human being." You see, it is very important to understand that he didn't call himself a human being. Now some people who write books on Buddhism, they say the Buddha was a human being. But here, if you read that sutra, you see that the Buddha doesn't say that he is a human being. So he asks, "You have been saying no to all my questions. Who are you?" He said, "There are three conditions when present. A person can be called a Deva or a Yakka, a devil, or even a spirit, or even a human being. Those three conditions are absent in me. Those three conditions are Lobha, Dosa and Moha. Lobha is the lust for sensual pleasures. And Dosa is the hatred of pain. And Moha is the thought, I am, or I exist. Those thoughts are absent in me. And therefore, I cannot be called a god or a devil or a spirit or even a human being. There is only one word that you can use. I am an awakened one, awakened from the dream of existence. It is like a lotus, though born in the water, grown up in the water, it rises above the water and remains unsoiled by the water. So in the same way, I was born in the world, I grew up in the world, and I rose above the world, and I remain unsoiled by the world. So this is a very important statement that the Buddha made. And this is something that we should understand. So this is why, if we want to use the modern word, the modern word that is used by all religions is the word God with the capital G. God with the simple G is different from God with the capital G. And so, we can use the word God with the capital G to refer to the Buddha. But this is what is called an anthropomorphic God. Anthropos means human, morphic means the body. That is a God with the human body. God with the human body. The mind is the mind of God. That is why the freedom from lust, hate, and the delusion. So that is the anthropomorphic God. And here we have the Buddha being called Lokanatha. Natha means the savior, savior of the world. And Lokavidu, Lokavidu means one who has penetrated or understood the world. Mahakaruniko means the all-compassionate one who has the great compassion for all beings. And that compassion is not an emotion, it's a freedom from all emotions that makes one compassionate. So I think we end here.
I'll briefly give an introduction to Jataka's story, which are recollection of some of Buddha's previous lives when he was known as Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva means one who strives hard to serve all beings selflessly. These stories are excellent source of motivation that could guide us in the right. Now, here is Mahakanna Jataka's story.
การันทิยชาดกครั้งหนึ่งในพุทธกาลสมัยยังมีเรื่องราวอันเป็นเหตุให้ต้องเลือกบอกศีลสั่งสอนธรรมะแก่ฆราวาสผู้ครองเรือนขึ้นในพระเชตวันอารามหลวงแห่งสาวัตถีเพื่อไม่ให้ภิกษุสงฆ์กระทำสิ่งอันเหลือวิสัยนั้นปฐมเหตุเรื่องนี้เกิดขึ้นในกรุงราชคฤห์ซึ่งพระสารีบุตรเถระได้เจริญธรรมสั่งสอนศิษย์และโปรดชาวมคธอยู่ที่นั่นพระธรรมเสนาบดีมีเมตตาสูงจึงให้ศีลแก่ชาวเมืองโดยไม่ได้เลือกชั้นวรรณะที่สำคัญคือท่านไม่ได้เลือกอาชีพของผู้คนเหล่านั้นเลยคนไร้คุณธรรมเช่นนักพนันและนักเลงดุร้ายจึงปฏิเสธการรับศีลจากพระสารีบุตรไม่ได้
ก็เพราะเคารพและเกรงใจท่านนี่แหละเลยยอมเสียสละแล่เนื้อกวางเลยนะเนี่ย
ข้าเองก็เหมือนกันหยุดหาเรื่องชาวบ้านมาฟังธรรมจากพระเถระเกรงใจท่านอุตส่าห์มาโปรด
ภิกษุสงฆ์ในสำนักท่านรู้ว่าคนเหล่านั้นรับศีลแล้วไม่รักษายังคงทำบาปกรรมอยู่ต่อไปจึงไม่อาจนิ่งเฉยได้
พระคุณท่านเหล่านั้นเขาไม่ได้รักษาศีลดังที่รับศีลไว้เลยนะขอรับ
แต่นี้ต่อไปขอพระธรรมเสนาบดีจงหยุดให้ศีลแก่คนผู้ไม่พอใจรับอีกเลยพวกพรานใจบาปนักเลงหัวขโมยพวกนั้นไม่อาจขัดขืนถ้อยคำพระเถระเจ้าจึงรับศีลไปแต่จิตใจมิได้ยอมรับตามเลยแม้แต่น้อย
ศิษย์ทั้งหลายของพระสารีบุตรกล่าวขอแก่ท่านอยู่ดังนี้หลายครั้งแต่ไม่ได้ทำให้การศีลหยุดลงแต่ประการใด
ไม่เป็นไรหรอกรับศีลไปทุกวันสักวันหนึ่งเขาก็คงประพฤติปฏิบัติศีลได้เอง
พระเถระผู้เลิศทางปัญญายังคงมีเมตตาบอกศีลแก่คนทั่วไปอยู่เช่นนั้น
จงเป็นคฤหัสถ์รักษาศีลปฏิบัติพระธรรมของพระผู้มีพระภาคเจ้าเถิด
เจ้าค่ะเจ้าค่ะ
เมื่อสงฆ์สาวกจาริกมาสู่พระอารามใหญ่เชตวันยังโกศลรัฐในการต่อมาเรื่องการบอกศีลแก่เหล่าชนผู้ไม่ต้องการศีลของพระธรรมเสนาบดีฝ่ายขวาก็เป็นที่โจษจันสันทนาการขึ้นในโรงธรรมสภา
อาตมาขอบิณฑบาตไว้แต่มหาเถระก็ไม่ฟังเฮ้ย
อันเมื่อความปรากฏต่อพระกันสมเด็จพระสัมมาสัมพุทธเจ้าณธรรมศาลาในพระเชตวันมหาวิหารพระองค์ก็ทรงมีพระมหากรุณาธิคุณตรัสว่าดูก่อนภิกษุทั้งหลายแม้ในการก่อนพระสารีบุตรนี้ก็เคยให้ศีลแก่ผู้คนที่ตนประสบพบเห็นแม้มิได้ขอศีลนั้นมาแล้วองค์พระศาสดาก็ทรงตรัสเล่าการันทิยชาดกขึ้นดังนี้ในอดีตชาติหนึ่งยังมีบุตรพราหมณ์นามว่าการันทิยะเจริญวัยขึ้นในสำนักอาจารย์ที่สาป่าโมกและแตกฉานสัพพวิทยาไตรเพศคัมภีร์พราหมณ์ตั้งแต่ยังหนุ่มการันทิยะเป็นที่ไว้วางใจของอาจารย์ที่สาป่าโมกอย่างยิ่งต่อมาจึงได้เลื่อนอันดับเป็นอันเตวาสิกะคือเป็นหัวหน้าคณะศิษย์ทั้งปวง
หลักคำสอนนี้เป็นอย่างนี้นี่เองพระธรรมช่วยทำให้จิตใจเราสงบสุขได้แท้
ๆศิษย์ผู้นี้ยังได้รับความเมตตาให้ร่ำเรียนมนต์พิธีจนสามารถอ่านพระเวทเป็นเจ้าพิธีกรรมแทนอาจารย์อยู่เนืองๆเพราะในวัยชราอาจารย์ที่สาป่าโมกต้องการปลีกตัวจาริกไปในที่ต่างๆเพื่อบอกศีลแก่หมู่ชนนั่นเองและการออกไปบอกศีลแก่หมู่ชนนั่นเองก็กลายเป็นเหตุให้คณะศิษย์ซึ่งนำโดยการันทิยะต้องขอร้องมิให้ท่านกระทำอีก
คนไม่มีคุณธรรมเหล่านั้นไม่ต้องการศีลหรอกอาจารย์โปรดอย่าให้ศีลแก่พวกเขาเลยคนเหล่านั้นเลี้ยงชีพด้วยการฆ่าสัตว์จับสัตว์และลักขโมยบางคนปล้นชิงทำร้ายผู้อื่นเขาจำใจรับศีลเพราะเกรงบารมีอาจารย์แท้
ๆเจ้าค่ะรับศีลเจ้าค่ะ รับแล้วไปล่าสัตว์ต่อนี่แหละชีวิตพรานอย่างเรา
แม้หมู่ชนบางคนจะยอมรับศีลอย่างตั้งใจสมาทานดังคำให้ศีลที่อาจารย์พร่ำบอกว่าจงรับศีลเถิดจงรับศีลเถิดก็เป็นเพียงแต่หน้าเท่านั้น
กระผมรับศีลเจ้าค่ะต่อจากนี้ไปก็จะประพฤติตามศีลที่รับไว้ขอรับไว้ก่อนอยู่ต่อหน้าอย่างนี้ต้องรับกันไว้ก่อนละ
กระทั่งบางคนแม้งดเว้นอาหารเย็นถือศีลอุโบสถได้ก็เป็นเพียงคนน้อยนิดเพราะอาชีพของเหล่าชนทั้งหลายล้วนต้องเอาเปรียบเบียดเบียนผู้อื่นเพื่ออาชีพตนจึงมิอาจรับศีลได้จริงๆศิษย์ทั้งหลายเห็นดังนี้จึงกราบขอให้ท่านงดให้ศีลแก่ผู้มิได้อาราธนาขอเถิด
แต่การันทิยะก็ผิดหวังเพราะอาจารย์ที่สาป่าโมกไม่ได้ตอบรับกลับยืนกรานจะให้ศีลแก่ทุกๆคนที่พบเห็นต่อไป
ไม่ได้หรอกการให้ศีลให้พรก็ถือเป็นงานของอาจารย์อยากให้คนเหล่านั้นรับศีลด้วยใจจริงของเขาสักวัน
การบอกศีลแก่คนทั้งหลายดำเนินไปไม่นานนักการันทิยะก็สบโอกาสทำอุบายได้ในวันหนึ่งวันนั้นอาจารย์ที่สาป่าโมกต้องอยู่บูชาไฟในสำนัก
การันทิยะเอ๋ยอย่ามัวแต่ห่วงเรื่องให้ศีลเลยเธอจงนำสิทธิ์ของเราไปทำพิธีกรรมในหมู่บ้านแทนอาจารย์เถิด
เมื่อการันทิยะนำสิทธิ์ในสำนักไปทำพิธีพราหมณ์แก่ผู้อาราธนาไว้จบสิ้นแล้วขากลับได้เดินผ่านเชิงเขาอยู่จุดหนึ่ง
เหวลึกโอ้ดีจริงๆเรามีอุบายให้อาจารย์หยุดบอกศีลแก่คนทุศีลพวกนั้นแล้ว
พราหมณ์หนุ่มสั่งคณะศิษย์หยุดพักเพื่อคัดเลือกขอบเหวลึกได้จุดหนึ่ง
ตรงนี้แหละเหมาะที่จะทำตามอุบาย
ของการันทิยะคือขนเอาหินน้อยใหญ่ทิ้งลงในเหว
ท่านการันทิยะท่านเป็นอะไรไปแล้วขนหินไปถมลงเหวทำไมกัน
ลูกพี่เฝ้าไว้อย่าให้ถึงกับกระโดดเหวนะเดี๋ยวข้าจะรีบไปตามอาจารย์มาดูเฝ้าไว้ให้ดีๆล่ะ
ได้สิเจ้าก็เร็วๆเข้าเถิด
อาจารย์ครับศิษย์พี่เป็นอะไรไม่รู้ครับช่วยด้วยครับ
อีกไม่นานต่อมาอาจารย์ที่สาป่าโมกก็ถูกตามมาถึงปากเหวที่การันทิยะกำลังถมหินลงไป
หยุดก่อนหยุดซะเถิดการันทิยะนั่นเธอเป็นอะไรไปหรือเหตุใดถึงนำหินลงไปถมในเหวอย่างนั้น
อาจารย์ศิษย์เพียงอยากให้เหวนี้ตื้นขึ้นจนราบเรียบเสมอแผ่นดินเท่านั้นเองขอรับจึงพยายามถมโดยการทิ้งหินลงไปหวังว่าสักวันก็คงจะทำสำเร็จ
ยากนักเจ้าการันทิยะเอ๋ยเจ้าคนเดียวทำอยู่ทั้งชาติก็ไม่อาจทำได้มันยากนักนะศิษย์เอ๋ยจงหยุดเสียเถิด
ถ้าเช่นนั้นก็เหมือนกันกับที่อาจารย์พร่ำให้ศีลแก่คนทั่วไปทั้งที่รู้ว่าไม่อาจช่วยทุกๆคนให้ยอมรับไปปฏิบัติได้ทั้งหมดอุปมาก็ดุจกันกับขนก้อนหินไปถมเหวกระนั้น
เช่นนี้นี่เองอาจารย์เข้าใจแล้วขอบใจเจ้านะที่คิดอุบายเปรียบเทียบขึ้นมา
ต่อไปอาจารย์บอกศีลเฉพาะสาธุชนที่อาราธนาขอใช่ไหมขอรับ
ดูก่อนการันทิยะเอ๋ยเราลืมสัจจะแห่งโลกไปข้อหนึ่งคือแผ่นดินนั้นมนุษย์ไม่อาจทำให้ราบเรียบได้ทั้งหมดชั้นใดเราก็ไม่อาจทำให้มนุษย์ทั้งหลายให้รู้จักเข้าใจอำนาจแห่งศีลได้ทั้งหมดฉันนั้น
เมื่อครบวาระกรรมในโลกมนุษย์ครั้งนั้นพราหมณ์ทั้งหลายก็ไปจุติในพรหมโลกด้วยอานิสงส์แห่งศีลสุดท้ายแห่งกงล้อวัฏสังสารในพุทธกาลต่อมาอาจารย์ที่สาป่าโมกกำเนิดเป็นพระสารีบุตรศิษย์พราหมณ์ทั้งหลายกำเนิดเป็นพระภิกษุสงฆ์การันทิยพราหมณ์เสวยพระชาติเป็นพระพุทธเจ้า
Mountain as high to Meru, gazed on with wondering pride. Lands in the starry orbits stopped for a while in pain. Gods in their shaken heaven, down to the earth they rain. Birds in their flaming feathers, beasts in their vests of gold.
That concludes today's broadcast. If you have any questions or concern, please contact us at info@buddhadharmatv.com. Our dedication is to share the peaceful, noble, and profound teaching of Buddhas with you, and helping you embark on a spiritual journey guided by his timeless wisdom. We encourage you to support and inspire those who seek the rational and enlightened path of the Buddhism. Thank you for watching. We hope our program on Buddha Dharma TV will continue to inspire peace lovers around the globe. Good night. Namo Buddhaya.